After Iran showed its stance through upgrades and performed a showy counterattack, it quickly backed down. Local time on June 23, Iran has accepted the ceasefire plan proposed by the United States with Israel, and Iranian officials confirmed the news to Reuters. Why is Iran's counterattack said to be a showy one? Before launching the strikes, Iran surprisingly notified Iraq, Qatar, and the United States. When Iranian missiles approached, Qatar and Bahrain activated full firepower. On that day, Iran fired 2 rounds of 19 missiles at the U.S. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. In the first round, Iran launched 7 missiles, all intercepted by Qatar's anti-missile system over the sea. In the second round, 12 missiles were fired. Qatar intercepted 11, and the remaining 1 landed inside Al Udeid Air Base without causing any casualties or material damage. The base had been completely evacuated before Iran's attack. And according to a New York Times report, 3 informed Iranian officials revealed that Iranian and Qatari officials specifically coordinated the missile strike on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, notifying in advance that the attack was imminent to minimize casualties. The 3 officials said Iran needed a symbolic counterattack against the U.S., but in a way that allowed all parties an evacuation corridor, almost identical to 2020, when after Trump assassinated Soleimani, Iran first warned Iraq and then fired ballistic missiles at Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq to force a face-saving gesture. Many might say Iran has emerged victorious. That Israel has brought shame upon itself, and that the U.S. has withdrawn in disgrace. However, we must acknowledge that Iran has suffered far greater losses than Israel. Nuclear facilities were heavily damaged, with some completely destroyed. Multiple missiles were destroyed on launch positions. Several fighter jets were obliterated. Air defense missiles and radar systems were completely paralyzed. A large number of senior military commanders and top nuclear scientists were killed. Additionally, critical infrastructure such as airports, state television stations, and the foreign ministry were destroyed. Israel has also incurred significant losses, though these are primarily concentrated in economic terms. For instance, the CBD technology park in Tel Aviv was bombed, and there has been enormous consumption of interceptors for air defense systems. While Israel has suffered minimal losses to key military equipment such as military airports, air defense systems, and fighter jets, it has basically achieved its military objectives. 1. Decapitated most of Iran's military high-ranking officials, including several of Iran's highest military leaders. 2. Destroyed Iran's air defense capabilities. A large number of air defense systems and fighter jets were destroyed by Israel, and Iran's air force has almost been crippled. 3. Severely damaged Iran's nuclear capabilities. Most of the nuclear facilities in Iran were attacked by Israel. 4. Greatly consumed Iran's inventory of medium-range missiles. At present, the inventory of medium-range missiles in Iran may be less than half of that before the war. In this short 12-day war, Iran has suffered heavy losses. Moreover, Iran has most likely made concessions on the nuclear issue. Whether it is to completely abandon uranium enrichment capabilities or retain low-level uranium enrichment, I personally tend to the former. It was precisely because Iran was unwilling to completely give up its uranium enrichment capabilities that the talks with the United States broke down, leading to Israel's airstrikes. The reason why Israel agreed to a ceasefire is most likely due to the assessment by the intelligence agencies of the United States and Israel that the airstrikes by B-2s have completely destroyed the Fordo nuclear facility, believing that Iran no longer has the ability to continue enriching weapons-grade uranium. It is acceptable to fight to this extent, and it will be difficult for Iran to recover for 10 years. Now that the strategic objectives have been achieved, continuing the war would be pointless. Moreover, this ceasefire is a dictate for Iran. If it had not agreed to the terms set by the U.S. and Israel, the 2 nations might have toppled Iran's current regime. From Iran's perspective, continuing the war would mean certain defeat. Therefore, to protect himself, Khamenei chose to cease fire. Despite the heavy losses in this war, he had no choice but to accept it. As for the specific terms of the private negotiations between Iran, the U.S. and Israel, they have not been disclosed yet. However, I personally speculate that Iran must have guaranteed to the U.S. and Israel that it will no longer pose a threat to Israel or attempt to endanger U.S. interests in the Middle East. This is a basic condition. Whether there are other terms remains to be seen in future announcements. The war between Israel and Iran may be coming to a pause, but it doesn't mean peace will prevail henceforth. The Iranian regime has suffered huge losses in this war, with its vital forces significantly weakened. Then next, can Iran still contain various domestic factions? Will opposition groups attempt to rise up like in Syria in the future? This remains unknown. It was the same for Syria back then. When Syria was strong, the government could suppress various domestic opposition forces. However, after being defeated by Israel in multiple wars, Syria's combat capability dropped sharply, reducing it to a weak nation. Especially, the military morale is no longer what it used to be, and the authority of the Syrian regime has also been severely damaged. The opposition then took the opportunity to rise, later leading to the Syrian civil war. It wasn't until last year that Syria saw a regime change. This situation may also occur in Iran, because now the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has suffered heavy losses, and its deterrence within the country has actually greatly diminished. The duration for which the ceasefire can be maintained is most likely the time when Iran stops developing nuclear weapons. With the experience of successful strikes. Once Israel discovers that Iran has resumed uranium enrichment activities, it will definitely continue airstrikes. For Iran, the current ceasefire can at least preserve the regime. However, this war has shown that the current theocratic republican path taken by Iran is not truly a way to become a strong power.